So Technology and Transformation, Chapter 7. Maskell. But one thing puzzles me. Pawnee says. What's that? Maskell says. How it happens that men here are ignorant of tools and arts, and have no civilization, and yet contrive to be social in their habits and wise in their thoughts. Hunaway says. Do you imagine then that love and wisdom spring from tools? But I see how it arises. In your world, you have fewer sense organs, and to make up for the deficiency, you have been obliged to call in the assistance of stones and metals. That is by no means a sign of superiority. The conversation between Maskell and Earthling and Pawnee and Arcturian in John Lindsay's fictional fantasy Voyage from Arcturus underscores the debate concerning the nature and purpose of technology, commonly understood as the material extension of our body and sense organs. What we think of as history or as historical progress is virtually synonymous with the history of technology. I know.
Are you recording right now?
Yeah.
Oh.
The same could be said of civilization. Indeed, the tendency is to view the improvement of creature comforts via some form of technology as the index of civilized life. A dangerous and subtle materialism is implicit in this definition of things. But what relation does technological improvement have to genuine creativity, or for that matter, spirituality? On the one hand, this line of thought places us in the untenable position of proclamating the superiority of suburban automobile and television existence to that of the aboriginal in the outback, daubed with orche and cinnabar and chanting ageless resonances to the still living rocks. Of course, it is heretical to voice the thought that the sensory awkwardness of the aborigine is preferable to 20th century technological comfort, which in actuality is a closing off of the sense fields and a narrowing of the perceptions we have of life. Indeed, it is impossible that the trap of technological development lies in our creating an environment in which all we receive is the limited frequency feedback of our own artificially devised improvements. That was not a statement, that was a question. Is it possible that the trap of technological development lies in our creating an environment in which all we receive is the limited frequency feedback of our own artificially devised improvements? What if the trap of civilization is a sensory shutdown that gravely impairs our ability to receive fresh information? This situation would be, can you say Gwen Towers? This situation would be compounded if the seductive frame of artificially induced environments might also condition our ability to appreciate new sensory input. We might then find the predicament of the collective human organism to be akin to that of a caged animal, suffocating on the toxic residue of its own waste products. Indeed, when we survey the reality of the world at the present moment, this description seems apropos. These considerations, however, still beg the question, what is technology? If it is so potentially disturbing to ourselves and our host environment, planet Earth, why did we develop technology in the first place? To answer this question and to recall the subtle subtitle of this book, Path Beyond Technology, it is necessary to put forth a very simple equation. Prehistory, pre-technological. History, technological. Post-history, post-technological. In this equation, the Mayan factor accounts for the relation between the first and the third terms, pre- and post-conditions of history technology. From the perspective of the Mayan factor, history, the exponential spread of communication in the form of material technology, is contained by and a function of 5,200 to 5,125 year diameter galactic synchronization beam. Indeed, technology as we now understand and define it could be described literally as a tool of the synchronization beam. Technology then is a direct measure of the acceleration and synchronization of DNA. in relation to the manifestation of the light body of the planet. So technology then is a direct measure of the acceleration and synchronization of DNA in relation to the manifestation of the light body of the planet. This means that coincident to the increase in technological application is feedback, and its feedback is a commensurate quickening of the DNA infrastructure. This quickening of the DNA infrastructure is paralleled by the activation of the planet light body, a process that remains imperceptible until the virtual conclusion of the acceleration process. Through the first 12 Baktun cycles, the acceleration gradually increases, becoming dramatic in the final Baktun cycle and climaxing in the 259th Cantun. Synchronization becomes stabilized only in the 260th Cantun, the final cycle. The index of the exponential climax of the acceleration process is the increase in human birth. The birth of the live billionth human, as heralded on July 7, 1986. Yet it was only 12 years ago that the human population reached 4 billion. Prior to entry into the synchronization beam in prehistory, the human organism, by and large, remained in a symbiotic relation with the environment. Fire and chipped stone aside, it was agriculture that hastened the technological imperative that was to be quickened by the beam. As we entered the beam, the tendencies toward material improvement, task specialization, social stratification, and territorial expansion became affirmed as the dominant evolutionary impetus. The view of nature ultimately affirmed by history is anything but symbiotic. Rather, it is that of master and slave. As the rate of the technological innovation increases through 5,125-year cycle, so the human organism spreads its vast artificial communications and social systems in a tighter web over the surface of the planet. For several millennia, despite less technologically advanced barbarian populations that inhabited its border regions, civilizations defined itself by the acquisition of fresh territory. By the onset of global industrial civilization, horizons began to dim. Yet, just beyond the self-destructive, artificial grandeur of global industrial civilization is the attainment of the goal, a condition in which acceleration of change phases into synchronization of wholeness. Assuming the capacity to attain critical synchronization prior to environmental self-destruction, the Armageddon bypass, then we may enter the 260th Cantun in AD 2012. 1992 to 2012, ruled by the exalted 13 pulsation ray and marked by the sign Ahu, AHAU, presence of the solar mind. The Cantun cycle will initiate the ascendance to the post-historic and hence post-technological condition in which the human organism returns to its symbiotic harmony with nature. In no way should this return be seen as an abandonment of civilization, understood as the process of human spiritual refinement, but rather as a passing to a more evolved stage of our existence. Lest this view be construed as a neo-romantic utopian fantasy, let us review the relation of the wave harmonic of history to the galactic harmonic and consider the fundamental postulate of the Mayan factor. What light is to life, so the 260-unit Tzolk'in is to the 64-unit DNA. Page 151 of Chapter 7.